Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 350 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. We have a great interview today with Medya Ansari, Northern California AILA chapter president, and also she's one of the leaders in setting up the California Chapters Conference. So that's a big deal. It's a big event. California's got a lot of immigration lawyers, a lot of topics to go through. So we're going to discuss her practice, the upcoming conference, and all that. I do want to give out a really good piece of information. I've been talking about this for a long time, but I'm going to finally set a date, November 21st, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, for going live. A small group, 6 people only, so sign up quick. Email me for information. It's just, a submission page. But we're going to go over an E2 case. I did change the status. It's actually from M1 to an E2, less than $100,000, no RFE. I want to go through that with you. I have a redacted PDF with a sample cover letter that we use. I can share with you, so you know my methodology. I know when you haven't done an E2 or you've done it once, there's this nervousness about it. It was the same for me when I talked with other E2 attorneys. It was the same for them. But kind of, watching you go through what points I was potentially looking for, what I was avoiding, what I intentionally did, all that kind of stuff is really helpful if you want to know. So we're setting up a small private group. It's $250, probably 45 minutes an hour. And it's going to be not recorded. So I'm losing my voice already. Wow. But just email me, depending on where you're watching this. It might be in the show notes. But register as soon as possible. It's October 21st. I'm recording this. It's going to get sold out pretty quickly. I've intentionally made it a small group so we can have lively conversation. So hit me up on that. I do want to thank our sponsor, Serenade. You all been hearing their name all the time for the longest time in immigration practice because they've been here for a while. E-Immigration by Serenade. That's Serenade with the C. It's one of the leading softwares in the immigration space, helping with your office management, case management, all these different tools, helping become the best law firm there is out there. If you want to learn more, go to serenade.com. Again, that's Serenade with a C, and talk with them about the software. Test it out. They'll let you do a test run. You can ask some questions, get to know them better to see if it's the software for you. I think it may be. Again, that's Serenade with the C. Having said all that, all the info here is not intended for individual legal guidance. I don't think there's any individual legal guidance we're talking about, but I got to say that kind of stuff. And if you want to contact me, it's info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Without further ado, let's get it started. Hi, Medya. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
So let's jump into it. Let me just know about yourself. Where is your practice and how you got into immigration law in the first place?
So I practice, my office is in downtown San Jose in California. And I guess I got into immigration because, I myself come from an immigrant family. I immigrated myself in 2004, about like 20 years ago. So, it naturally kind of made sense and it felt close to home.
Yeah.
Initially, I was kind of going back and forth between criminal law and immigration law, and I kind of love the intersect of the two, and so that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Well, very cool. And so do you do a lot of immigration work right now?
So I do some immigration work, but right now primarily I do a lot of like asylum cases, humanitarian type asylum cases. I do a lot of like affirmative or defensive asylum cases, and then U visas and VAWA cases.
So when you're in San Jose, do you use the San Francisco field asylum office?
Yes,
How are the
San Francisco.
backlogs over there?
So it's it's extremely huge backlog as it is like nationwide. I mean, it's slowly they're trying their best to kind of increase the number of interviews and going back to like how it was pre-COVID. But they have over 85,000 cases pending for an interview, and so it's a mess. But I mean, they're hiring a lot of new asylum officers, senior asylum officers. They just opened a new office in Oakland, which is not their like primary office yet. They're looking for a bigger one in San Francisco, second office, which hopefully is going to give them more capacity to have more interviews. And
Are there any particular demographics you run into in your area?
yeah, I mean, my practice, a lot of our demographic, we serve a lot of like East African, West African clients, like a lot of clients from Ethiopia, Eritrea, Nigeria. I also represent a lot of people from Middle East and from Central America as well, because we're relatively close to the border. But yeah, I want to say majority of my demographic are from Africa. Yeah.
And what kind of firm structure do you have right now? How many attorneys, staff members? How does that all look?
So I'm a sole practitioner. We're
Wonderful.
solo. I mean, initially when I joined this law firm, I joined as an associate, and our founder was Yemi Getachew, who unfortunately we lost her to cancer in 2022. So now I'm just keeping up the legacy and taking over the firm after her passing.
How do you like maintain, because it's humanitarian cases with a court or affirmative asylum, VAWA cases, UV, they're taking like 10 years to complete. How do you manage that to not and run a firm at the same time? These long distances where there's gaps and you got to get active again. The clients get frustrated. What's been your situation? How do you been deal with that situation?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge with the humanitarian cases. Like that's one of the biggest challenge, I guess. Like the amount of time it's taking for these cases to be adjudicated, unfortunately, and a lot of times, like I feel terrible for a lot of our clients because a lot of times they're separated from their families
Yeah.
during this time, like from their kids, from their spouses that they had to leave behind. So it's pretty awful. And on top of that, it's like from the practice management side, it does become a little bit difficult because we have to, keep the business going for the life of the case, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think like the reason I still do it is because humanitarian cases are very close to my heart, and when I see every case that I win, I could see how much difference it makes in these people's life. And
Yeah.
so that's what kind of gets me going for like doing these type of cases and still taking these type of cases. But it does become challenging. I mean, nowadays I've been doing a lot of mandamus lawsuit, with another colleague of mine, which has been helping a lot in like, speeding
Yeah.
up a lot of those cases that's been pending for years.
Very cool. One thing is for like, I have cases where it's adult children of U.S. citizens or something, which could take 7, 12 years, who never knows.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
say, okay, we're just gonna file the I-130, and then when the time comes to do the rest, or even stuff
sure.
that's slower time frame. Is that something you looked into? Like, okay, I'll do the initial asylum filing, and then once an interview is scheduled, then there's a separate contract for interview prep and attendance, just so you kind of cut in
Yeah,
between.
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's weird because the asylum office procedures and processes changes so
Yeah.
frequently, so we had to kind of like adapt a lot. Initially that was our strategy, because exactly, the cases were taking 5+ years. That was before the previous administration that I came up with a new policy of last in first out,
Yeah.
meaning like if you file your application now, you are going to be a priority, right? You're going to get an interview first after 2018,
Mm-hmm.
which is still the policy. So when that policy changed, so initially before that policy, we would just file, yes, skeleton applications, because so many things could change by the time they get an interview,
Yeah.
right? So we would file skeleton application and then update it as it gets closer to the interview process. But then when the policy shift in 2018, and then the cases that we were filing, that were getting interviews within a month and
Yeah.
decisions about 2 weeks after, then we had to shift the policy again, and or our process again, and be like, no, we had to file everything at the time of the
Yeah.
filing. And then COVID happened, and then things went back to the way it was before. So again, we had to go back to the old ways.
Yeah.
But I still file the declaration at least with the application
Mm-hmm.
and then supplement the evidence later.
And the practice management portion is stressful, and that's clients are not gonna understand that, and it makes things cost a lot of money. They get frustrated, obviously, because it costs so much money. But it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's not. It just not. I mean, a lot of people don't do it like myself because I know how difficult it is to manage kind of caseload.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, very cool. So you do the humanitarian work, and how long have you been practicing right now?
So I've been practicing for 7 years now, but I've been in immigration law since 2011. So I was a paralegal before I went to law
Nice.
school. But I've officially got licensed like 7 years ago. So officially, as an attorney, I've been practicing for
Very
seven
cool.
years.
And
Yeah.
I know you're active in AILA. You're the head committee member for the I believe for the California chapters. meeting that's coming up. I think it's in November. It's coming up pretty quick.
Yes, November 7th to November 9th. It's in Monterey, which is like a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
like place. But yeah, I mean, I am currently the chair for the Santa Clara Valley chapter, AILA Santa Clara Valley chapter, and this year Santa Clara Valley is hosting the conference.
Mm,
Um, and I, along some of the other AILA members, were part of the planning committee. So we have a lot of like great topics and panels planned out for this year for the California chapter conference. We try to make it very unique and very focused on California chapter local laws, right? And nationally as well. But we try to incorporate a lot of like the California specific nuances within the topics and the panels.
hmm
So we have like the U visa panel. It's going to be discussing a lot of like the new U visa laws that are particular to California, state of California. um, there's another panel that's going to be talking about false claim to citizenship and voter registration specifically,
Yeah.
in state of California and the issues that comes up with that.
I think they made it where they
In terms of
automatically register you now for registering to vote, and that could create havoc.
Exactly, exactly. So that panel is going to be focusing on that. And we also recognize that obviously we have an election that's like literally going to happen. And so we try to kind of like incorporate that because we know it's going to be right after elections. And so things going to be very raw. And so we also try to include a panel in there that's going to discuss post-election issues,
Yeah.
depending on whether we're going to know what the election result is going to be by then. But we do have a panel set up for that, which should be exciting. um, we also have panels regarding changes in the immigration court, family hot topic.
Yeah.
And so some of the more unique panels that we don't see often in the national, like the T visa, the trafficking visa panel, EB5 panel, special immigrant juvenile panel.
Very cool.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's quite a lot of work to organize. I know you and a lot of volunteers at the Rayla are putting it together. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is quite a work, but it's our pleasure because I know that these local conferences are really great because you get to kind of like see the colleagues in more intimate, much more intimate settings
mhm,
than the national conferences because it's a lot more smaller. You get to see a lot of like similar cases, get to
yeah.
know like your local practitioners and things like that. So I feel honored to have been to be part of this, and I hope that everyone's going to join and enjoy the topics and panels that we've included.
Yeah, these are really good. Sorry, my internet's kind of cutting out, so but that's where the pause is happening a little bit. But for example, meeting someone up Northern California, Southern California helps. I actually got an interview I'm going to in a couple of weeks for adjustment of status from a colleague up north who needed someone in LA. So if you like during LA National, you meet a lot of people, but it's kind of broad. But Northern California people and Southern California have clients that go back and forth all the time. So like just having the connection there could pay for the meeting itself just to attend it, just do that for the networking aspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love local chapter,
Yeah.
local conferences. It's so amazing.
And,
It's so amazing.
your local area chapters are really good. LA chapter, your chapter, I've joined your chapter and I see the how active you are. Is your website, your group, and all that. It's really a good chapter to be a part of. I'm always really happy to get the info you guys send.
Thank you so much, John. Yeah, I mean, the Santa Clara chapter is like a much smaller chapter. I
Yeah.
mean, Northern California is much bigger chapter than us. But I think because of how small our chapter is, our members are so like they treat each other like a family. Like
hmm
we all are there for each other. We try to connect with each other on, very frequent basis, and, kind of like talk about like our clients, our cases, and things that are bothering us or having issues with, which is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty awesome chapter. I love it.
Very cool. I guess I was talking about asking another practice management. Like we're in the third chapter and a third quarter of the year right now. How does the
Yeah.
next 6 months, 9 months look? Do you have any particular things? I mean, now the conference is done and all the work that you're gonna have to do for that probably filled up your time. What kind of stuff do you have planned for your business in the coming months and quarters?
Yeah, I mean, my goal right now for the last quarter is to be able to finish the year strong. I mean, at the beginning of the year, like, for the first time this year, before the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, for the first time, I sat down with my accountant, and we set a financial goal for the
Hmm.
whole year. We planned out our financial goal for the year. We tried to set up some kind of realistic, revenue goals, cost goals, and things like that. And we tried our best to kind of stick to that, um, you know, um, uh, plan that we had made,
Hmm.
right? Or the, um, um, what we thought that we should do and we will do. And luckily we've stick to that plan. And so my goal is to be able to kind of continue, meet that financial goal that we had set before the beginning of the year, and like finish the year financially, revenue wise, strong.
Yeah.
um,
That
yeah.
planning itself is a lot of work. I'm surprised you found an accountant that would sit down and do that with you. Because my accountant's, I hope he's not listening, but it's not happening with him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first year that I even like thought about doing something like that. And then when I did it, I was like, it makes a huge difference, because you kind of you set a goal not only for yourself, but you also set a goal for your staff,
Yeah.
right? So you kind of make sure that your staff are meeting that KPI. You have some kind of understanding of what the KPIs are. Are you meeting those KPIs or
Hmm.
not? um, and you kind of adjusted as things changes throughout the year, based on how you did the previous year. You try to set a goal, a realistic goal, and then as things changes, you make adjustment to it. But um, not only kind of like, cognitively, it kind of makes you feel like motivated, because you're like, oh, like I accomplished this, right? My team and I accomplished this. But also it kind of like, keeps you on track
Hmm.
financially, making sure your cost is where it should be,
Yeah.
right? And the revenue you're bringing, it's still, it's where your goal wants to be.
Yeah, it's a whole different things. I've been really mindful of this stuff, and I'm like, this is a whole. It kind of takes me out of the practice manager, a lawyer kind of aspect. Is you have to wear such a different hat when you're doing that.
It's funny because like I've never imagined myself to be like a entrepreneur or like a business owner. I never went into, the practice of immigration thinking I'm gonna have my own business. Um, but things kind of happened,
Yeah.
and I found myself in this role. But I now I realize that how much I love it.
Hmm.
It's challenging because, like you said, you have to wear so many different hats, right?
Yeah.
Between like being a CEO versus like being an attorney, like, being a boss, whatever. But it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
A lot of new skills you got to
yeah.
learn. That's what it's like. It's good because you're learning new stuff, so your brain's keeping fresh and it's exciting. At the same time, you got to learn so much new stuff every day and new software and new bookkeeping and this and that. And you're like, oh man, this
Yep.
is constantly something learning, something
And
else.
things are changing so frequently,
Yeah.
and it's especially in the practice management side too, with the AI and everything. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah, we've
hard
like
to.
expanded to get like a phone service. Before I would answer the calls to just tell everyone to go to email, but we got a phone service.
Mm.
Then figuring out their script on what they say and learning all this new AI software, see what's good, what is not there yet, or like how you can input it. CRMs, like there's all these different things. The whole year I've just been spending time doing that, and it forced me to cut down. I mean, I have associates who do most of the work now, but like the marketing I do, a lot of the videos which I do a ton of, have to cut down, and a lot of toolbox stuff we do, you have to cut down a lot too for me to just figure out, okay, how does CRM work? What are the problems with it? What's good? And all these companies. but it's kind of like a long-term investment because once I have it ready, then in 3 years from now, it's going to pay off a lot. But I just got to pay the dues right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly. It's like a long-term investment.
Well, very
It's a
cool. So
long-term
if people
investment.
want to reach out to you, is there a website, social media, or email, best way to contact you?
Yeah. They can we can be reached on our website, which is ethiopianattorneys.com, or you can send me an email, media@ethiopianattorney.com, or find us on social media, Getachew and Ansari Immigration Attorneys. Yeah,
Well,
I
thank you.
would
And my
love to
apologies.
connect.
I was saying Maida. My eyes are. You probably get that a lot. I'm guessing the D and the Y switch up.
I
Media. I've
oh
always thought your name was Maida, and then you're Media. I'm like, wait a minute.
no
That's Chicago Connecticut. I'm thinking, okay,
worries.
definitely. So that's right.
No worries at all. No, I know my name is pretty unique. Like even in my country is pretty unique. Not a lot of people have my name.
Well, Media, thank you
So
so
no
much.
worries.
So I appreciate coming on the show. Stick around for a bit after I end it, but thank you so much. And you
Thank
know,
you for
uh,
having
if people see you at the conference, definitely let her know you saw her on the podcast.
me. Of course, absolutely. I love listening to your podcast, and you're doing such amazing work.
Oh, thanks so much, Media. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for so much for listening. It's kind of embarrassing when you get a guest's name wrong, especially when you've read their name and you've communicated them in the past a long time. But that's life. I'm so used to seeing the D's and the Y's switched up. But having said that, she's a great colleague in Northern California. If you want to reach out to her, she's really good at just taking care of biz over there. So one of the leaders in the community. Before we end the show, I want to remind you about the E2 special, the live special private session we're having. If you want more information, or frankly, if you want to just register, you got the information at the beginning of the show. It's info@immigration Toolbox to email me. I'll send you a link for signing up. I think you're going to enjoy it. Having said that, enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll get the next one out pretty soon. Bye bye.